Hey babes, my name is Tori, and this is the Horror Babe Podcast, episode 7. And okay, so I know it's not Friday, but it's the 13th. And so I really wanted to do Friday the 13th, obviously. Friday the 13th is, man, that is a classic. It's one of my favorites. I have this movie on DVD. I watch it whenever it's on streaming. I watch it whenever it's just on regular television. I could watch this movie on a loop, and I have before, just as background noise, but I still watch it anyways. But this was just it's so good. It's so good. It's definitely one of my freaking favorites. Let's get into it, okay? So this was directed by Sean S. Cunningham. The story was also by him and Victor Miller, produced by Sean S. Cunningham. And then we have starring in it Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Harry Crosby, Laurie Bartram, Mark Nelson, Janine Taylor, Robbie Morgan, and Kevin Bacon. This movie was released May 9th, 1980. With a runtime of 95 minutes. And so I don't remember how this one was introduced to me. I honestly don't remember how a lot of these horror movies were introduced to me. I feel like I just started watching things, which is nuts. I need to talk to my mom about that because I was watching just a ton of scary stuff as a kid that I had no business watching. But I blame her because she likes the same stuff. But um, if you do not know the plot of this movie, first of all, why are you here? Go watch it. But the plot follows a group of teenage camp counselors who are murdered one by one by an unknown killer while they are attempting to reopen an abandoned summer camp with a tragic past. That past being that a child had drowned there. And, that's how, well, that's not how the movie opens up. Let's talk about the opening of the movie, actually. So, doing my research, apparently that opening scene with the two camp counselors sneaking off to, have some time alone. I guess originally they were supposed to be killed while walking along the lake. But I guess during filming, it was too cold or like the weather conditions were harsh, or I think it was snowing. And so they decided to switch it up, and it ended up being in that upstairs cabin area. So that's where we get that opening kill scene. And it's just so perfect to me because you really get that terror. Like, I would kill to have been able to see this movie for the first time in theaters. Just that first scene. Like, homegirl, they said, you got 2 minutes. And she proceeded to act her ass off because the scream, the just pure look of terror on her face was perfection. It was perfection. And not only that, but the music. The music is one of the things that I loved so freaking much about this movie. The soundtrack was actually done by Harry Manfredini. And I didn't really pay attention to this, but I guess he made it so that the music, that theme music that you hear throughout the movie is only played when the killer is on screen or like in the vicinity. And we don't actually see the killer, Mrs. Voorhees, until like near the end of the movie. But the music is just, it's, I think it does such a good job of just like building up that tension and momentum because when, I can't remember the girl's name, who the first counselor who got killed after that. The one who was hitchhiking. First of all, homegirl, if everyone in town is looking at you crazy because you're about to go to this camp and you don't even know the history of the camp, you shouldn't be going to the camp. But also, like hitchhiking back then, I know that was such a huge thing. It was still bad, but people did it anyways. I think that was nuts. But when they're in the truck and they fly by the turn that takes you to Camp Crystal Lake, and she's like, hey, like, I think we missed the turn. And then you immediately get that music to play. That is one of my favorite scenes in this movie. I love it so bad. The music just like flowing while she's running through the woods while the killer's after her. Love it. Love it. And then when at the end, sort of, when Alice, when she discovers Bill's body, that music starts playing again. And then you get her running back to the cabin and she's like shutting off the lights, trying to barricade herself inside. And then when the other girl's body crashes through the window, you get the music playing again. Like, oh, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. I love it so bad. But there were a couple things that my analytical brain just, I always think about whenever I'm watching this movie. So, and I'm going to get really technical, but like, okay, so we find out in the end that Mrs. Voorhees, Jason's mother, we find out that she is the killer. She's been the killer the entire time, throughout the entire movie. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever her reasoning, yeah, okay, that can be believable. But is it really? Because I'm thinking about all of these kills. So let me start with, what's his name? Ned, Nettie, whatever. We don't see him get killed. We see him when he's like walking along the lake and he hears a noise, or he sees a person. He sees a person enter a cabin and he follows them in, but we don't see what happens. But then when is it Marcy and Jack, they go into their cabin to, get down with the get down, and they're on the bottom bunk of a bunk bed. The camera pans up to the top bunk and Ned's there and he's dead. And so I'm like, how did Mrs. Voorhees get his body up there? I've never attempted trying to carry dead weight. And so, I mean, Mrs. Voorhees didn't look that strong to me, but how did she get him up there? But not only that, when we go back to Bill, we also do not see Bill's kill scene either, but I believe he's tacked up on the door with some arrows. And I mean, like, not, if I recall, he's not, I feel like he was a few inches off the ground, which is weird. I need to go back and look at it again because how? How? And then what, she just threw the other girl's body through the window. But also, you're telling me that she threw the girl's body through the window when Alice was hiding in the cabin. Then she ran back to her Jeep and drove the Jeep toward the cabin and then proceeded to act like she didn't know what the fuck was going on. How was she able to move all of these bodies like that? And then a part of me, so with my research, um, I believe, where did it say it? I think the writer of the script was upset that they decided to have Jason pop up at the end of the movie. I guess that originally wasn't in there, and they decided to add it. And um, I guess he was upset because he's like, no, Jason is supposed to be dead. Like, he's supposed to be a victim. He's not supposed to be a villain, because we know throughout the rest of the movie series, Jason is the villain. And the way that I want to look at it is, if Jason had never actually died, let's just say that, could we interpret that as him helping his mother in the first movie? I mean, can we interpret it that way? I mean, because again, this is a lot of work that this lady has put in, and this has all happened in a day. Not with the first two camp counselors, that had happened like years before, but the rest of the movie is all happening on this one day, and she did a whole lot of killing and body moving this day. And you telling me that she did all of this by herself? Like, that would make me believe that it is plausible that, yes, perhaps Jason did drown, but he lived, and who knows what happened to him after that. He was traumatized. He was, I don't know, he had a disability. Who knows what happened? But he helped his mother. And then once Alice killed her, he took over where she left off. Because, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, like, with that ending, yes, it left off, well enough for there to be a sequel, because you're like, oh, well, this is Jason coming out of the water. Is he alive? But then, of course, we do get the second movie and he is alive. We get several movies after that and he's alive, because he just won't freaking die. But I don't know. I just think it's, mm, I, I just don't see her doing all of that by herself. I think that's just a wee bit unbelievable, but it's a horror movie, so I'll shut up about it. But I also did not realize that the snake that was killed in the movie was real. But I guess looking at it, you could kind of tell. I mean, this was 1980. Like, by this time, I'm sure they could have. The scene didn't really seem that necessary to me in the first place. But if you had to have that scene, could you not have used a realistic sort of prop? What was the need for killing the snake? I don't know. Um Also, apparently, uh I can't recall if they said it was due to budget, but the actors for Mrs. Voorhees and Alice did not have stunt doubles. So they choreographed all of their fight scenes, and it's the fight scenes were hilarious because the fight scenes were bad, honestly. I mean, when Mrs. Voorhees was like bitch slapping Alice, I think that was hilarious. But anytime Alice went to hit or knock out Mrs. Voorhees, like, her falls were so dramatic, just so dramatic. And then, so this was another thing that pissed me off. So when Alice ran away from Mrs. Voorhees the first time, and then she went to go hide in like the pantry, was it? And I think, oh, I don't know if it was the pantry or if she ran in somewhere else. She went to one of the buildings and she shut the lights off, because what happened was, I know Mrs. Voorhees turned the power off on the entire camp. And at some point, she turned all the lights back on. But Alice went into one of these buildings to hide, but when she went in there, she turned the lights off. And I'm like, now, girl, you're not using your brain because that would just stick out like a sore thumb. I just turned all of these lights on in every building, but this one building doesn't have the lights on. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me go check there first. That's just, it's not, she wasn't being that smart, honestly. Now, apparently, critics were not that fond of the amount of graphic violence in the movie when this movie first came out. Um, but I honestly don't think it was enough. I compared to today's horror movies, I guess with this being in 1980, it was a lot. Like compared to now, I think it if this movie were to come out today, I would say that they were playing on the safe side because we don't they don't show us enough. Like they showed us a bit. Like they would do something major and then for the next one not show enough. So like with the first two kills, okay, the guy camp counselor, I believe he got stabbed in the stomach, but we don't really see that. He's hunched over, he falls to the floor, and then the opening credit scene, we get the girl, her face is frozen in terror, like boom, okay, whatever. Now, the girl who was hitchhiking, her throat gets slashed in the woods. And we don't really see like that slice because you get the killer in the frame and then they move and then we just see that her throat is slit and it's gushing blood. And it's like, okay, that was pretty major. All right, sure, absolutely. Then you get to, was it Nettie? And we don't see his kill. But then you get Jack, and that one was gruesome because Jack was lying in the bed, and you had that really sharp object, whatever it was, coming up through the mattress through his neck, and that was pretty gory. Actually, that was very gory. And then we get to, I think it's Marcy, um, in the bathrooms, and she gets the axe. Now, I will say her kill was my least favorite because, uh, okay, like here's me just being analytical again because I guess you could say she froze, flight or fight kicked in, she froze. And she just stood there crying while this axe slowly, because it wasn't quickly, this axe slowly hit her right in the middle of her face. So it's like we don't see the actual strike, but we see afterwards with the axe embedded in her head. Now, after her, we get the other girl whose name that I cannot remember. I'm sorry. She's the one who runs out in the rain. Now, first of all, you know what? Why? You run out in the rain. Who would you possibly think would be out there? You know everybody who's supposed to be at this camp. It's like six of you guys. You know everybody that's supposed to be there. And you hear someone screaming, you don't know what? No one was really using their brains, but uh, she gets killed at the archery range. We don't see that, but we see her bloodied body later on. Um, so yeah, we don't see that gore. We don't see um Bill's death either. We just see him impaled to the door with arrows. We don't see, well, we kind of do see Steve's death, but again, it's not gory. We just see him get stabbed in the stomach as well. And then finally, at the end of the movie, Mrs. Voorhees is beheaded. And it's like slow mo, and we get to see all of the blood and whatnot just gushing out of her head. So I could see where they could say, like, oh my God, this is too much. But honestly, I mean, I feel like it was perfect. There have been movies where I've seen like where I think they do gore just for the sake of gore, where it's like just so unnecessary and it's in excess and it's too much. And I'll say it was Terrifier 2. Now, that's a video for another day, but I'll just say the first Terrifier to me was amazing. The second Terrifier was doing too much and I couldn't finish it because they were doing too much. But yeah, no, thinking that Friday the 13th had done too much is nuts. I think it was perfect, actually. But this is definitely one of my favorites for sure. This was actually the first independent film of its kind to secure distribution in the US by a major studio, um, which was Paramount Pictures. And then internationally, it was by Warner Brothers. Um, but this was a really successful franchise. It went on to have numerous sequels that we'll get into later, a reboot that I hated, which we will also get into later, a crossover with A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was Freddy versus Jason, which is a favorite of mine. Video games, which I have, which I didn't really care for, shockingly. But yeah, for sure, for the sake of, me doing my ratings and stuff, definitely 5 stars. Love this movie to death. But make sure you come back tomorrow. We're going to finish out our horror movies from 1896. Thanks for listening. Bye.